Hello friends, I'm Rotarian Thelma Lobo, Literacy Director for Rotary Club of Pune, Kalyani Nagar. Disha is a brainchild of a lady who is an honorary doctor, MBA, serial entrepreneur, and a prolific speaker. She is none other than our President Rotarian, Dr. Megha Sharma. Megha is not just a Rotarian, but an entrepreneur, travel consultant, networker, toastmaster, and a proud mother and wife. She is the founder of Toogle Travel Private Limited, the world travel networking platform for B2B agents. She is also the director of Travel Kaftas, a travel company specializing in corporate individuals and group tours since 6 years. She is also a serial entrepreneur in various startups. Let me now invite her to start today's session.
Thank you, Rotarian Thelma Lobo. I, Rotarian Dr. Megha Sharma, call the meeting to order. Let's raise for the national anthem.
जनगण मन अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड उत्कल बंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्चल जलधि तरंगा तव शुभ नामे जागे तव शुभ आशीष मांगे गाहे तव जय गाथा जन गण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे
Warm greetings to our club members, past presidents, synergy partners, fellow presidents, fellow Rotarians, and our guests. We at Rotary Club of Pune Kalyani Nagar welcome you all to the today's session of Disha, the Literacy Week. Disha means Margdarshak. It also means direction. And I am grateful to all our speakers for taking out their valuable time to share their immense knowledge and give commitment to the project. Rotary believes in service above self, and through Disha, we intend to open more opportunities for our fellow Rotarians, their friends and families to learn more and more. The Literacy Week is spread over 5 days and 7 powerful sessions. The sessions will be on women's social entrepreneurship, new tax regime, power of savings and value of money through Subbu stories, which is especially for the children, fitness and preventive medicine, 60 minutes to LinkedIn success, consumer rights and cyber suraksha. I'm sure these sessions and this knowledge is required at all walks of life. So what are we waiting for? Let's begin today's session.
हेलो, गुड इवनिंग ऑल। आदरणीय अतिथि, रोटरी क्लब के सभी मान्यवर और सभी श्रोताओं को मेरा प्यार भरा नमस्कार। मैं रोटरियन सचिन घोड़ेकर अध्यक्ष रोटरी क्लब नारायणगांव। दिशा, इस रोटरी साक्षरता समारोह के दूसरे चरण में आपका तहे दिल से बहुत बहुत स्वागत करता हूं। रोटरी क्लब पुणे कल्याणी नगर और हम सब सिनर्जी क्लब्स ने मिलकर इस आधुनिक साक्षरता समारोह का आयोजन किया है। हमारा यह प्रयास है कि सिर्फ पढ़ाई और लिखाई नहीं, बल्कि सबको आधुनिक ज्ञान और जानकारी प्राप्त हो, जिससे सबका सामाजिक और आर्थिक स्तर ऊंचा हो और सबका भविष्य सशक्त और उज्जवल हो। मैं तो ये कहूँगा, नए भारत का कदम आधुनिक साक्षरता की ओर। और मैं अभी हमारे मित्र रोटरियन सुदर्शन जी नातू से अनुरोध करूंगा, आज के प्रमुख वक्ता उनकी सबको जानकारी दे, उनको सबसे रूबरू कराए। थैंक यू। ओवर टू यू सुदर्शन।
Hello friends, I am Rotarian Sudarshan Nathu, President of Rotary Club of Pune South. It is my honor and privilege to introduce our speaker, CA Nishant S. Mehta, proprietor of Messrs. Nishant S. Mehta and Company, Chartered Accountants, serial entrepreneur and mentor, who is also a prolific and passionate speaker, traveler, and passionate about Young India, YLF, Rotary, and Toastmasters, and love to lead in nation building projects, and has been recently appointed as International Partner for India at WBAF, that is World Business Angel Investment Forum. He is also counsel for Mumbai Entrepreneurs Group of Internations. CA Nishant Mehta has around 20 years of work experience in audit and tax consulting assignments and legacy advisory services in corporate law, and with specialization in banking and Bollywood audits. He is also part of Tuggle Services Private Limited, a travel networking company, as the Director, Finance, Legal and Administration. Additionally, he is a tarot card reader and a speak analyzer. He loves dancing and cricket. And above all, he is a Rotarian. Please help me to welcome Rotarian CA Nishant Mehta. Thank you.
Hi guys, welcome you all to Disha. It's an opportunity, it's a great opportunity to be a part of Disha. Thank you Megha Sharma and Rotary Club of Kalyani Nagar to make me a am I audible?
Yes, Nishant, yes.
Yeah, okay. So guys, before I start, your chat box is open. I would like to know how many of you believe in paying taxes. If you can put an answer on a yes, no, whatever on the chat box. Today's session is all about the new tax laws. Are you happy with the old tax law or not?
CAs would know.
So I can see everyone saying yes, yes, yes. That's a good sign. Okay, good. So guys, on April 2020, there were new tax laws were passed for the financial year 2021. With the permission of all, let me start with the PPT. Okay. So I'm Nishant Mehta, chartered accountant for 20 years and specializing into taxation, corporate audit, and Bollywood, and of course, banking audit. Are you all able to see the PPT?
Yes, we can.
Cool. Finance Act said that there was certain law which gives an option to a person to compute under the new tax law, keeping the old tax law intact. For the financial year 2021, you get an option This is first time in the history of income tax where you are given a chance to choose which law you want and which law you don't want. So it's an optional. Under the old law, 0 to 2.5 lakh exempted, 2.5 to 5 lakhs was 5%, 5 to 10 was 20%, 10 and above was 30%. Now in the tax law of new tax law, they break down into certain more elements and income slabs, like from 0 to 2.5 lakh exempted, 2.5 lakh to 5 lakhs 5%, 5 to 7.5 10%, 7.5 to 10 15%. So you are gaining 5% extra till the income of 10 lakhs. 10 to 12.5 20%, 12.5 to 15 25%, and 15 lakhs and above 30%. Surcharge and education sales remain the same. 87A income up to 5 lakhs exempted. But there's a catch. Now what's the catch is, if you opt for the new tax law, the new regime, you won't get certain allowances and perquisite, which I'm going to share with you right now. So these are the specific exemption and deductions which you won't get if you opt for the new tax law. HRA allowances, leave travel allowances for the salary guys, specifically the children education allowance under section 1014 and 80C will not be allowed. Daily allowances by an MP, of course, I don't see any of the member of parliament being part of this session, but then still it's not allowed. Then you have a clubbing benefit, which is not allowed. You have a standard action of 50,000, which is not allowed. Interest on borrowed loan for a self-occupied property. A rented property still is covered. But if it is a self-occupied property, whatever is the interest, not allowed. Additional depreciation, not allowed. ATCC, ATCCD, ATD, any provision of Chapter 6A, not allowed. So this has a certain thing you need to forego if you're opting for the new tax regime. Specifically, few of the laws which is not allowed. Earlier, the earlier assessment year losses were allowed if the depreciation is attributable to specific direction. If you have some direction related to, which I showed you in the earlier slide, and the loss related to that will not be allowed. Similarly, loss under the head house property pertaining to the current year shall not be allowed to be set off against any other head of income. Now, this is a very important point because earlier the loss under the house property was allowed to be set off against the carry forward of any other head of income. Depreciation is allowed, but additional depreciation not allowed. Now, very important things when you exercise the new tax regime. It says that if you have an income, from business and profession, and you have already opted for the new tax regime, it can be exercised only once. Whatever you exercise, it will be for all the subsequent assessment year. Similarly, income other than the income referred in clause 1, which is business and profession, the return for a previous year, it can be exercised and withdrawn only once. So after this year's next year, you get an option, either opt for the old tax law or the new. And whatever you opt will be your permanent tax rate. So this is a very crucial year, the second year, where you need to take a choice between the old tax law or the new tax law. Now let me come to the old and new. I'm sure many people in here would be thinking you are getting a lot of benefit in the tax regime, but you are foregoing your direction, still you will earn. Now can I have someone on the chat box saying whether they will go for the old tax law or the new tax law before I go to the pros and cons? I'm sure everyone might have a little bit understanding on the laws. You can reply in the chat box, yes, no, whatever. I'll prefer if you can all chat on the everyone and not on a private chat. So it's always better we have everyone's viewpoint on the chat box. So people say they will like to go for the old and don't want to go for the new law. Okay. So let me come to the difference. What are the pros for the new tax law and pros for the old tax law? Now, what are the pros for the old tax law is enforcing investment culture. So it all depends, like, yeah, so rightly said, it all depends on the amount of income you have and you go for the old tax regime or the new tax regime. But in the old tax law, there were certain domestic ATG exemption and direction which you wanted to invest and you were getting benefit. But in the old tax law, there was significant lock-in period like a PPF 15 years and many other laws which was a lot of lock-in over there. It was definitely not suitable for senior citizens because they were not getting any additional benefit. Limited avenues were there and maintenance of documentation in case of any tax proceeding. One second for all. Sorry, I'll just do that. Yeah, I already there all. Surprise. Coming to the new tax regime, the pros are you have a reduced tax rate and you have a lot of breakdown in the income where your tax rates drastically increase and the compliance has reduced. The investor may not prefer to lock in funds in the prescribed instrument for the Section 80C or 80CC. The liquidity definitely goes up. And I'm sure in today's time, in the corona, you will definitely are looking for many liquidity in your hand. Am I right? People will love to have funds and their cash flow should be there, right? And the revival of the consumption cycle and energy. The disadvantage of the new tax regime is non-availability of certain specific deduction and not suitable for long-term planning. So there are only few disadvantages of having the new tax regime. Now let me give you a comparative analysis. What if you use the old tax regime? Like people were saying that depends on the income. Now let me give you a analysis based on slab rate of income. And the condition and assumption is no eligible investment is there under both the law. That means no investment under LIC, education, PPF, PF, nothing is there. So if you look at the, sorry, if you look at 5 lakhs, there's no changes. 7.5 lakh, you have a benefit as per the new tax regime. You get 26,000, you save 26,000 extra tax. Till 8 lakh is 28,600. If you can look at the comparative analysis, the tax amount is 46,800 and 75,400. If you look at 10 lakhs, if you look at 10 lakhs, you can see a benefit of 39,000 if you use the new tax regime. Like I have certain people who have actually done a private chat and said that they prefer the old regime. But if you can look at it, I think your view might change. 12.5 lakh, you can see 65,000 is an extra benefit. Any income about 12.5 lakh, your benefit remains same. 78,000 is an extra tax benefit you get when you use or opt for the new tax regime. But the condition and assumption is no eligible investment is made in both the cases. Clear?
Yes.
Let me go where your breakdown happens. Like if you invest, The new tax regime is beneficial only if the investment is less than the amount mentioned in the specific thing. So these are the investments amount which you can use. Sorry, someone said not clear. Okay, I will take the questions after certain time. Then we can actually discuss more on whatever is the query. Is that okay? So one clarification, this is just a comparative analysis where you have not made investment in both the cases and what the additional benefit you get by using for the first old tax law or the new tax law. Like we will definitely have a discussion where we will show you why you can opt for the old tax law and not for the new. But before that, your break-even point is the amount which you want to invest and why the new tax regime will be beneficial if the specific deduction is less than the amount mentioned here. Now, this is no more of a mathematical rate on the new law and the old law, and based on the amount you should invest, which you can get a chance to opt for the new tax law or the old. Now, let me give you an example of a salary employed under the new tax law. So your income is 12.5 lakh and 12.5 lakh. You have specifically 3 deduction, ATG. I'm sure everyone knows about ATG, your PPF, PF, your child education. You have 1.5 lakh. You get a 50,000 standard deduction, which is a flat. Then you have a profession tax of 2,500. Your taxable income comes to 10,47,500, and your tax you pay is 1,31,820. This is on 12.5 lakh. If I use the new tax regime, I cannot claim any of the deductions. It's a flat, like a CTC to the company. You have a flat income of 12.5 lakh, and you end up paying a tax of 1,30,000. So you are saving a tax amount of 1,820 if your income is 12.5 lakh. I'm sure now you can understand if you take the deduction also, still you end up paying more tax in the old regime if your income is 12.5 lakh. Now take the example of 15 lakhs. If you take the example of 15 lakhs, same deductions, 1.5 lakh, 50,000, 2.5 lakh. And you have a taxable income of 12,97,500. Still, your tax amount is coming to 2,09,820. And if you look at the new tax regime where you're not claiming any of the deduction, still you end up paying 1,95,000. So you're paying less. Now let me give you one more example. This is where you have a self-occupied interest on house property, loss on house property, and medical premium. Okay. If you look at this example, your taxable income will go down drastically because you are claiming interest on self-occupied property, which is not allowed under the new tax regime. And even the mediclaim, which is under section 80T, 25,000 is the limit for that. You end up paying under the old regime 80,080, and under the new law 1,30,000. So what will you opt? Definitely the old tax law. If you go to the 15 lakhs, again you can claim interest on self-occupied property. You can claim ATC. You can claim ATD. And you end up paying a tax of 1,39,620. Whereas on the new law, it's 1,95,000. You end up paying nearly around 55,000 extra if you opt for the new tax law. So this is the difference. Your deductions, your amount of house property, if you're paying interest on house property or a mediclaim, which makes a drastic difference in your tax amount under the old law and the new law. Before I go to a comparative analysis, a drastic salary, specifically this is for the salary people. Till salary 30 lakhs, you always pay an extra tax of 72,540. Because under the new tax law, you cannot claim any deduction. But under the old law, you can definitely claim many deductions. So this is the difference, and this always depends on what income you have and what are the deductions and the investment you do. Specifically, if you can look the difference in this slide and this slide. Here, if you can see, it seems like you are benefiting in the new scheme. But if you can look, when the amount of deduction changes, automatically everything changes. So the difference of interest under house property is a very important component. And I'm sure many of the people opt for interest on house property because the interest rate currently is again 7.10 and earlier it was around 9%. So this is something you gain paying less amount of interest rate, and you definitely benefit in the old law. Now let's come to the corporate law. Corporate law, there is not much difference, but yes, that's the highest rate was 43.68 and domestic was 34.94. If I can add it all, sorry, yeah. So up to 10 millions, 10 millions and 100 millions and 100 millions. So again, there is a breakdown based on your income, your tax rate increases. And the minimum basic tax rate is for domestic company 31.20 and foreign companies 41.60. All domestic company not claiming taxes is you have a 10%, 25.17. You have a basic norm where if person has set up after 1 October 2019, the tax rate drastically goes down if it is a manufacturing setup, which is 17.16. That's a benefit they get. Sure, I'll explain. Now, a few of the tax norms for the corporate also, because I'm sure there are many people who own a private limited company. Am I clear? Can we go ahead with the TCS also? So basic thing, the dividend distribution tax has been abolished and the taxation of the dividend income has been shifted to the hand of the recipient. There is a certain tax exemption on certain income of Indian petroleum products. Withholding tax has been reduced to 2% on fees for technical services paid to residents. Earlier, it was 10%. A TCS is a very important component which has been introduced, and I'm sure Megha knows that there are a lot of if and but happening in the travel industry because of this under Section 206, TCS on overseas remittance and overseas tour package.
Yes.
I'll come to TCS. And the widening the applicability of TDS. And of course, if you have a dispute with the tax department, they have come with an option of Vivad se Vishwas, which say you can actually sit across with them, share your redressal, your grievance, and you won't be paying interest and penalty, and they will only take tax on the basic amount. Very important thing which is recently Honorable Prime Minister Mr. Modi has started, which is a faceless appeal effective from 25th September. Now, I would like to specify more on this because after you file a return, whenever there is a query or this thing, what you call a notice, everyone gets fear. How many people still fear? How many people fear for notices? Can I have some answer in the chat box? I'm sure everyone, if you receive a notice from the income tax, the first thing is you are a little bit scared, right? and you always think that the IT department is corrupt and you will end up paying some amount as bribery. Now, I'm sure the salary people or even the corporate will not like to give bribery for the thing which they don't feel is not wrong. But this has been taken over from 25th September faceless appeal. So in the faceless appeal and assessment, sorry, the selection will be through online computer system, AI, and there will not be any territorial jurisdictions. Whatever will be there, there will be a documentation identification number, and there will not be any physical interface. Your case will be handled by someone you will never see in your life, and he will only focus through a document or encrypted data analysis and an artificial intelligence system. Draft assessment in one city, review in another, and finalization in the third city. So the identify of the person who is going to take your appeal will never be disclosed. And hence you will never be able to offer any bribery, or neither he can demand any bribery. So this is a very crucial thing of going away with the corruption. I'm sure everyone knows about the case of CCD owner who actually committed suicide because of the income tax harassment caused to him. And I'm sure everyone is scared of getting a notice. I'm telling you about my own personal case. When my dad received a notice, in spite of having a CA at home, he's scared. And that's the effect of an income tax notice. So I'm sure everyone will believe this is a very good move by the government of India. So everything will be based on whatever the documentation you send online. So cases of serious fraud, sensitive matters, search and seizure, international taxation, Benami property, everything is taken care because of that. So these are the cases where if you have a major tax evasion, definitely they will go after you and they will not take a facial assessment. You will definitely have a face where you will have a certain person coming and giving a notice. But this is only if you are doing wrong. If you're not doing anything wrong, it will be a faceless assessment. The commitment is obviously the privacy of taxpayer, cost of compliance is reduced because you don't need to go. There is no mechanism to lodge complaint, and it is holding the authority accountable. It is treating the taxpayer as honest, and I'm sure everyone knows now they started giving certification of bronze award, a silver award, and a gold award for the amount of taxes you pay during your last year. TCS, a very important crucial law which has been introduced and which is effective from today. Thank you for everyone being there today. It's a very important day for everyone who want to know about the new law. The TCS on motor vehicle is about 10 lakhs. On foreign remittance under LRS scheme, if you have a liberalized remittance scheme of 7.5 lakh paid on an overseas tour package, you need to cut money of the TCS of the person who is remitting and deposit on behalf of that person, connecting to his PAN card to the government. So it's like a prepaid tax you are taking on the expenses. Similarly, TDS on e-commerce supplier and TCS on purchase of goods above 50 lakhs, they are taking the money. Let me come to an understanding why TCS had been introduced. Now, TCS is something like a TDS, but on expenses. The concept is clear. If a person is spending a certain amount of money, he will definitely have more income than the expenses is incurring. And since they want you please pay tax on your income, they are taking that money on the expenses you incur. So it's tax collected at source. TDS is tax deducted at source. TCS is tax collected at source. So basically, for example, if you go abroad, if you're spending around 10 lakhs on your overseas tour package, Your travel agent's responsibility is to cut TCS, because they believe that if a person is spending 10 lakhs on a tour package for his family, he's definitely earning around 50 lakhs or more to sustain and spend out that much money. So they are saying, okay, why don't you pay some money in advance as a towards income tax? You can definitely claim under your income tax when you're filing it. So your TCS is just a prepaid tax by the individual, but on expenses. On TDS on cash withdrawal above 1 crore, rupees 20 lakhs for non-filer. This is again on a cash withdrawal. They want to avoid money laundering, and hence they want to start that thing. I will take questions after the session is over at the end. Now, very specific thing for the person who are into the business and profession who are selling goods and services. They have clarified, if you're selling a goods more than 50 lakhs a year, 1% on the total sale consideration, including the GST, need to be deducted at TCS. And this is a very important law because it's being implemented from today. And half the people, there were a lot of chaos and confusion on this law. What is the limit on which amount you need to deduct your TCS and how it is going to be implemented. Now the TCS is implemented from October 1, and there will not be any adjustment on account of sale return, discount, indirect tax. Whatever is amount, including TDS, you need to deduct 1% to the government. This is for the business class. Now, expansion or scope. Now, if you have a cash deposit of 10 lakhs and more in a non-current account, definitely there is a lot of chances that this will be reported. Withdrawal of 50 lakhs or more in a current account, cash deposit, definitely this is all scope of expansion of transaction which will be reflected, and the information goes from the bank itself. Sorry, can you see it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we can.
Okay. So the reporting of transaction and mutual fund credit card were already there, but it is more rationalized and it will be more transparent, and they will match with whatever the investment you're doing in mutual fund. Your credit card expenses are being tracked more now. The immoral property are being tracked, and so whatever you buy, make sure you buy in white and by check and avoid cash transaction. Deposit about 1 crore in current account, expenses of 2 lakh in foreign travel, electricity consumption about 1 lakh. These are new things which is a part of the AIR, which is an annual information report, which we were not covered, and now they are covering this also. So this is, thank you all for being a patient listener. Now I can open it for any of the questions. Yeah. Megha, can I take the questions?
Yeah, hi. Nishan?
Yeah, I'm just looking at the questions. So,
Yeah,
Rajesh,
can
okay.
we please put the screen off? We would love
Can
to see you.
explain, before I put the screen off, I have to answer one question of Rajiv sir, and
Yes.
he need an understanding of gross salary of 25 to 45 lakhs. So if you can look at this chart, Rajiv Saran, if you can look at this chart, any salary above 30 lakhs, you definitely end up paying more tax. It is very clear from the chart. Any salary above 10 lakhs or anywhere where if the person is investing into a ATC, which is 1.5 lakh, it's a limit, and NPA is counting 2 lakhs. If he has a mediclaim, and if he has a house property interest on house property, which is like you pay an interest on a self-occupied property, you will definitely end up paying more tax under the new tax law, and That's the reason, if you can see, the salary not 12 to 15 lakhs is covered everywhere. But the difference why you need to opt for the old and new all depends on amount you're investing under section EDC, which is 1.5 lakh of your PPF, your PF, and child education. And if you have a house property self-occupied. Okay? Yeah. May I request Megha to ask me questions from the chat box? Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
I'll just stop the share. If can I put it on if they need something to look at it? Otherwise, I'll share it. Okay, that's okay. Yeah, sure.
Yes. Thank you, Nishant. It was a very insightful session. I'm sure, though it was a very, very specific session, so I'm sure all those who wanted to know about the tax, they would have all got the information that was needed. There is a message from Sudha before I pick up the questions, is that, you know, if your accounts are crystal clear, you definitely need not to worry at all. So do we need a CA when we keep our accounts clear?
Let me answer that. So I have been in the industry for 20 years, and I've dealt with around 300 plus individual clientele salary classes, and definitely a private limit, proprietary, LLP, and everyone. Obviously, everywhere there is a little bit tweak on the accounting. No one loves to pay tax, and trust me, this is something with my experience of 20 years dealing with thousands and thousands of people across the world.
Thank you. Yes. So one more thing, we've got to know that TCS, we should not be scared of paying the TCS. It's just the advance tax that we are paying, right?
Yeah. So it is basically, it is nothing going from your pocket. It is the money you're collecting from the person who is booking from you. If you're a travel agent, you're booking something, or if you're doing a liberalized remittance scheme also, it is not your money which is going stuck up. Definitely it's an additional cost to the other person who's booking through you. But this is like a prepaid tax. You reduce your advance tax and don't pay your advance tax. It's compensate.
Okay, thank you. Then there is a question, if you can, what about the foreign university fee for TCS?
Again, it's a liberalized remittance scheme and it is covered there. So you definitely do it because they say the entire concept of a TCS is if you have an income, then only you can expense out. A person who is paying for a foreign university definitely have that money to spend for his own child or daughter or son. So definitely it's like a prepaid system and you need to pay tax on that or TCS.
Right, that's right. Okay, thank you. There is a message from Sudarshan ji. The difference between old and new framework is new one gives you more money to spend in hand. So we have flexibility whether to invest in ATC or not, use the money.
So the concept is if you have an investment in ATC, if you have a housing self-occupied property, interest you're paying, and which is around 2 lakhs or something, then definitely go for the old tax law and not the new law. You will end up paying more tax in the new law. If you don't have any investment, like I have many clients who don't believe in ATC. They say, I'm young, I don't want to invest into ATC and all that. For them, definitely the new tax law are important and they will end up paying less tax under the new tax law.
Yeah, thank you. Nishanji, there is a very interesting question. The question is that what was the need to have new tax regime? Will it not be killing?
So I'll answer in a lighter tone. Nirmala is the first finance minister, the lady finance minister of India. So she definitely wanted to bring some different thing in the law. And that's the reason she started. So I really didn't find any logic. So I've been dealing with a lot of NRIs and I have offices in Dubai, London, Singapore, and currently in London and Australia. So nowhere you have an option of two laws. Two tax rates is something which is like first time in India, and maybe honorable prime minister would like to say I'm the first guy to start two different tax laws. That's the only reason I can figure out. But yeah, for certain people it's definitely a benefit, and for certain people It all depends on so the amount of the additional tax or your saving will not be more than 72,000. Like person who's earning around a 1 crore or 45 lakhs, for them, it doesn't make difference at 72,000 or something. It won't create an impact. But a person who is around 10 to 15 lakhs, whatever the tax amount he saves, he's happy in that.
Thank you. And there is another follow-up question with that. Will it not be killing the saving attitude of the people, the new tax regime?
The people it's an old concept where people actually invest too much into long-term plan. Like I would like to quote Manmohan Singh, and he say, in the long term, everyone is dead. So I still believe that. I don't believe in long term. So there are certain old orthodox people, or I will say the old thinking, where they definitely believe in long-term planning of 15 years, 10 years. Now, due to the pandemic, I really don't know what's going to happen in the next 3 months also. So definitely for the people who believe in short-term planning, this is good. That's definitely a good law, new tax law. Though you don't need to invest anywhere and you just pay the little bit additional tax and you're done with that. You don't need to block your money into PPF or PF or anywhere. You don't need to block it at all.
All right. Yes, that's true. That's true. Thank you. Before I pick up the next question, I would just like to quickly tell you, Mr. Mehta, that there are so many thank yous coming for you. People have really loved your session. There's a lot of knowledge that has been imparted to them. So thank you, Mr. Mehta. Then the next question is, how is tax structure if we are receiving income from other countries?
It means export of services?
No. If we are receiving money from other country.
Yeah, that's export, no? If you're receiving money from other country, it's like export of services. So the only law is like if you're a service industry, you pay, you have a client abroad, and if he pays you income, if you have registered under the letter of undertaking under the GST law, you don't need to ask for a GST, and you can automatically charge without GST the billing. But if you don't have a letter of undertaking under the GST law, then you need to charge GST to the other person, even if he's overseas. So that's
so if we are not providing any services, just that my relative is sending me money, then?
So that's okay. So that has to be a clear cut, and that goes into a FAMA law and definitely not under the income tax law. So whatever the money you receive, if it is a relative, then there has to be a gift agreement, or there has to be a connection between you and the other person and why he's sending the money. So his bank will definitely ask what's the source of fund and why he's paying you money. And similarly, if you are getting the money, your bank will definitely question you on the inward remittance. So you normally get a FIRC, which is known as a Foreign Inward Remittance Certificate, which clearly says the reason of you paying the money or you receiving the money.
Okay, thank you. And so what about the GST in that case?
So GST, if it is just a remittance for personal use, no GST applicable. No, that's not. GST is only for goods and services if you sell and purchase.
Okay. So there is a question from Mr. Sujit Doshi. What about self-remittance by NRI? So if you can quickly, Sujit ji, tell me on the chat box what exactly self-remittance by NRI. I mean, what does he mean? Does he mean that he's transferring from his account to another one?
No, that's what I need to understand that.
Yeah. So, Mr. Sudhit, if you can be a little more clearer about the question, that will be great. Okay. So I think this has been answered when you're receiving income from other countries.
Yeah. So I think he's not talking about the income. He's talking about if you transfer like a son giving a payout to a father or someone, something like that.
No.
A little bit confusion in the question.
Incoming income. If you have income from overseas,
no,
and the
for
money
your own account, you can definitely transfer. There are certain procedure by your banker. And if you cover everything, there's nothing to be worried about transferring from your NRE to your NRO account.
Okay, thank you. There is a thought from Mr. Nattu which has come. He says that he feels that new tax law is meant for young generation. So more spending happens and lot more money comes in market instead of getting locked. So government makes more money.
So I'd a little bit disagree on that. It is you are actually giving more liquidity to the young generation to invest either into startups or less of loan and self fund. So if you that indirectly take care of NPAs, which is non-performing asset, and the bouncing of checks, because if you have more liquidity, you definitely will pay the money and it will work.
Okay. If we take education loan for overseas, still TCS is applicable?
Education loan for overseas, yeah, no, TCS is not applicable in that case. It's not, you have taken an education loan, so it's definitely on the loan part. So even if you take a loan from overseas or anyone, TCS is not applicable at all. But you're taking a loan, why will TCS be applicable on that?
Okay, thank you. So there is a question. So Ms. Revati wants to understand a little more about GST. If you can
Definitely.
summarize once again.
So what GST she wants to know about GST on what? Like I need to understand on what topic on
Revati
GST.
ji, can you please?
A
Yeah.
little
So
bit
Revati ji,
elaborate
can
on
you
your
please?
query so I can answer that.
Yeah. So okay. So Mr. Sujit has replied saying if he is sending money from my own account to NRO.
Yeah, that's
I'll
allowed.
just
I
go.
already answered that. That's allowed.
Okay.
RWA, can you elaborate on RWA? Applicability of GST. Oh, sorry.
Okay. Mr. Lalit is saying, does it make more sense to take home loans and save tax under old tax regime?
It depends on the interest you are paying. Actually, I always believe in home loan. You can definitely take a home loan. Like no one will pay you money at a 7.1%. So it's always good. If you have a liquidity, you can definitely invest into the stock market. Bitcoin is still valid right now, but it's soon going to be banned. So if you have more liquid stock market, mutual fund is somewhere you can invest. Which technically you're renting at 7.1%, and if your return on mutual fund is 15%, or on stock market is 20 to 30%, looking at the Sensex which is going right now, definitely I will prefer people going for a housing loan.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. So, okay, it's 8 o'clock. So, okay, it is my opinion also, Mr. Kina, but I'll take the experts' advice on this. Mr. Kina says that, you know, India has been able to survive the recessions due to the habit of savings.
I disagree on that. In how much India has survived, we practically don't know. The GDP has gone down drastically. And I personally know many people who have lost their job, they are into depression. And so I really won't comment on that because it will again go into a political discussion. But yes, definitely India had not survived the recession. It's bad. The situation is very bad. And it will at least take minimum 1 year to overcome the entire recession.
Okay, thank you. Anything you would like to say cash is king?
No, actually, yeah, being a Maru, always I love cash. But as a taxation, I will still believe more and more if you pay tax little bit and make white component, it's always going to benefit for you when you go foreign traveling or you want to buy a property. Now, 90%, sorry, 90%, 75% of the people have stopped taking cash. And so hence the cash is not no more the king anymore unless you're a politician or you're a film star.
Okay, so Mr. Shetty has asked if you could suggest some good investment options to get tax benefits under from the old tax law for income.
ELSS is something I will definitely advise everyone mutual fund, and you do a SIP. So if you put in a ELSS, it definitely covers the market risk. This is the first time the mutual fund had gone fallen down, but again it's coming up. So definitely ELSS will give you a tax benefit and you will definitely earn in the stock market. So indirectly you're putting a money in the stock market and you're getting a benefit under section 80C. So ELSS is very good. PPF personally I don't advise because it's a 15-year lock-in. Unless if you're thinking your money is going to be enjoyed by your son or a daughter, definitely you can go for PPF. But house property is something I will still suggest you should definitely invest into house property. You get an interest on self-occupied till 2 lakhs, which is like 60,000 of tax saved. Plus, you will definitely you can definitely gain and save more taxes under the new old tax regime also.
Okay, so there's an interesting question. Why is taxation so taxing in India? Is
So
it the same norm everywhere?
so I have a saying this, it's all about money, honey. But if the taxes were simple, then people like us will be jobless. So it's always better tax a little bit complicated.
I've received one PM. Is tax TCS a boon or a curse?
TCS is neither a boon nor a curse, but it's something which in the long run definitely going to help the Indian economy because people will end up paying taxes as an advance and declaring more and more white component, which is definitely a growth for any economy in any country. So I am in favor of TCS.
Okay, yeah, thank
That's a
you.
question.
So, okay, there is another question from Mr. Lalit. He's asking what are the safe ways to convert cash in white?
Off record.
Mr. Mehta will give you. Okay, so yes, I will share Mr. Mehta's number on the chat box. So such kind of questions can be questioned to him later.
Offline.
Yeah, else my number is with everybody. Whatever questions remain unanswered or you have more questions, please ask me. We will get back to you with the answers later on. Okay, so next is, can you explain 24Q, 27A and income tax return?
So basically, this is more on a technical stuff. So I really cannot cover the entire thing. But if you can just offline, if you can ask me, I can explain you everything. This is more on a technical part, like 27A and Q. Definitely, income tax. I have already covered the new tax rates and income tax return. So Saral it is more complicated, and thanks to the complication in the Saral form, we people are earning because of that, and we are very happy for that. That's the only thing.
So
But definitely, I'll take this question offline. Mega, if you can just share my number to them, I can.
I will just post the number.
It's
Yes.
more of a technical stuff. I cannot explain the entire law here.
Yeah. Okay. So the next question is, what are the rules regarding receiving gifts from relatives, and is there any limit towards it?
So let me clarify on that. Your relative definition has to be defined. So if it is a near, delephant, the lenient and ascendant and descendant, then definitely if you are covered in that definition of relative, any amount of gift is non-taxable. But the definition has to be very clear. So a husband cannot gift a wife. That's very clear. But a husband, a person can give to a girlfriend, but a husband cannot give to a wife, and vice versa.
No,
So that's
actually
the
they are
only
better halves.
but that's not allowed because it goes into the section of clubbing. So it's not allowed. But other than that, if my dad gives me something or I gift my dad something, is officially allowed. No taxation, no law, no gift tax.
Yeah. So I'll pick up last three questions because there are a lot of questions which are falling in. Maybe we can pick up the questions later on. So there's a very nice question. I don't know if you'll have an answer to it or not. So will the moratorium scheme be extended? What are your thoughts about it?
Definitely it's going to be extended, because it's actually beneficial for the bankers also, the moratorium period. Instead of having a lot of NPA, if I just extend the scheme of people paying later, personally, I will end up paying more interest and it will be an income for the banker. Secondly, the banker doesn't need to show NPAs. I'm sure in this Corona time, many people have defaulted in the EMIs and all that. So the moratorium scheme is definitely a boon for the banking and for the economy and for the person also, because whenever I earn money, I will definitely like to pay the interest back to the government, to the bank. So definitely it's going to be extended. They might come with a fiscal policy soon.
Yeah, and bankers will scratch their heads once again.
So one additional tip is like, if you targeting Indian banks or banking stock market, you can definitely invest into bank stock.
Once the moratorium is announced.
It is soon going to be announced.
Yeah, the market is already low for a few financial services. Okay, so this answer may be yes or no. Is education private limited company falls under GST? Does education company falls under GST?
Yeah. Every company, if you have a limit of 20 and a 40 lakhs, if a service industry, 20 lakhs is the limit of the turnover, and 40 lakhs in case of a service industry, GST applicable. It doesn't depend on what industry. It's definitely on.
Okay, thank you. Then I think this is a nice question. I would want you to reiterate everybody. What are the benefits of filing of tax returns, even if you have a lesser income?
So this is a very important question, and I'm happy someone picked this question and questioned me. Filing tax is always beneficial. If you want to travel abroad, there are many countries who insist on having last 3-year file return. If you want to buy a expensive car, they will ask for your 3-year IT return. If you're going for a higher LIC policy, a life insurance, they are going to ask your income tax return. Plus, if you want to take any loan in future, they will definitely look at your documentation. Even if it is a basic income, but they have a security that the person is genuine and creates an impact of credibility and trust in the person who is borrower or anyone, and it helps. So definitely you should file your income tax return. Even if you have a low income, please file it.
Yes, thank you, thank you. Sudarshanji is saying he has to go for another meeting, but Q&A session was really very, very informative. Okay, so I'll pick up the last question. I have many. Let me pick up the. Okay, so what do you think is more beneficial, new tax law or the old tax law?
I will still go for the old tax law because I know for a matter of fact, 90% of the Indian population invest into ATC like PPF, PF, because it's like my dad had told me to invest. So it goes on a legacy. And plus, everyone has one house which they have taken on a loan. So your 2 lakhs every year you get as a benefit. So obviously the old tax law is good for good.
Thank you, Mr. Mehta, for your valuable time. There are many, many, many more questions which are pending. Maybe we will answer them. I will ask and answer them, ask you questions, and we can come back to them later. But there's some interesting, maybe it may call to a debate, or you may call me Arnab Goswami for this. So there is a open question from Mr. Rajiv Saran, wherein he is saying that, the government keeps extending the filing dates. Now it's 30th November. Do you think the government club is clubbing both the years now, 19, 20 and 21?
No, the year will never be club, but definitely the due date is going to extend from 30th November to 31st Jan, 90%. Obviously, you will need to wait for the government notification, but definitely this is going to extend because in the ROC, the date of EGM has already been extended to 31st December. So unless I don't compile and file my corporate returns, definitely the individual returns cannot be filed. So I'm sure it's going to be extended. And there will never be a chance of clubbing both the years. If one return extend, the second return automatically get extended.
So, what about the CAs? Do you all
We are
like
happy.
the
No, no,
extension of dates?
we are always happy when there is an extension, because then more and more people will file return. And after today's session, if I'm happy if 50% extra people start filing who have never filed return, so it's like a money back for us also.
I'm sure. I'm sure. It'll be. It. I'm sure it is a very insightful session. So if somebody was planning or was not planning to pay the taxes, so I'm sure they will all file the returns. So thank you, Mr. Mehta. There are lots of thank yous which are coming up,
My
and
pleasure.
there's a very good. It was an excellent session. It was very specific. So we had lots of audience yesterday. Today we were expecting a little less, but still it was it was very informative, and we had about 150 plus participants on the Zoom today. The unique
I'm glad.
participant. So thank you for imparting your knowledge to everybody. I'll pick up some questions with you later on. And nice session, wonderful session, lovely session, very nice session. The comments are pouring in, and I am aware that you have another meeting. So I would uh, I would not take much of a time. And thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Pleasure. Thank you, Mega, for giving me an opportunity.
So I would request vote of thanks from Mr. Nitin.
That was awesome. Amazing talk, powerful insights that will help each and every one of us to understand how thorough is the tax law. Chartered Accountant Nishant Mehta ji, your talk has added so much value to us and loads of information about new tax regime. We are thankful to you for gracing our event. Friends, I am Rotary Nitin Wagh, President of Rotary Club of Pune Baner, proud to be associated as synergy partner with Rotary Club of Pune Kalyani Nagar in this endeavor. Looking forward to seeing you tomorrow at 11 a.m. to understand power of savings and value of money with Subbu stories for kids under 8 to 15 years. So, looking forward to meet the children with their parents.